Imagine you are standing at the edge of a playground, watching a group of children play. Some are climbing high on the jungle gym, while others are huddled together, intense and focused, as they negotiate the rules of a game they just invented. As an observer, your instinct might be to step in when voices get loud or when a climb looks a bit too steep. We live in a world that tells us that good parenting means constant presence and constant protection. We are surrounded by messages that say every moment is a teachable moment and every risk is a potential disaster. But what if we are actually getting in the way of the very thing we want most for our children? What if our constant supervision is creating a generation that is safer in the short term but far more anxious in the long run? We are currently in a moment where parenting has become a high-pressure performance. We track locations with satellites, we text our kids from the other room, and we feel a deep sense of guilt if they are ever bored or unsupervised. This shift has turned childhood into an adult-managed project. It is time to look at why we feel this way and how we can find a way back to a more balanced reality. By exploring the hidden dynamics of independence and the structural patterns of our modern culture, we can begin to see a new path forward. This is not just about letting kids run wild. It is about understanding the deep connection between agency, competence, and mental health. Let us dive into the mechanics of how we can raise children who are not just safe, but truly capable. On the surface, the idea of giving children more freedom feels like a debate about physical safety. When we hear the term free-range parenting, many people immediately think of worst-case scenarios. They imagine the dangers of the street, the stranger in the van, or the accidents that could happen at the park. This surface level of the conversation is dominated by fear. We look at statistics and news reports, and we conclude that the world is a dangerous place that requires our constant guard. Because of this, we stay closer to our kids than any generation before us. We walk them to bus stops that are only 2 houses away. We stay in the same aisle at the grocery store. This surface concept suggests that more supervision equals more safety. It assumes that a child on their own is a child in danger. We have been conditioned to believe that the primary job of a parent is to be a bodyguard. However, this focus on physical safety often ignores the invisible growth that happens when an adult is not there to solve every problem. Behind this constant need to supervise lies a hidden assumption that children are fragile and incapable of managing their own lives. We often assume that without our direction, children will fail or fall behind. This hidden assumption suggests that growth only happens when it is led by an adult. We see this when we organize every sports game, every playdate, and every afternoon activity. We assume that a game of soccer is only valuable if there is a coach and a referee. But the hidden truth is that when adults take over, children lose the chance to practice essential life skills. They do not learn how to negotiate rules, how to settle arguments, or how to empathize with a younger peer who is struggling. When we are always there to high-five them for every small task, they begin to believe they cannot function without our approval. The hidden assumption is that independence is a risk to be managed rather than a nutrient to be provided. We are essentially treating childhood as a state of constant emergency where an adult must always be on standby to intervene. If we look at the structural pattern of our modern society, we see that the different worlds of childhood and adulthood have collapsed into one. In the past, there was a clear structure. There was the world of kids, filled with bikes and secret forts. There was the world of adults, filled with boring conversations and work. And there was the family world, where these two groups met for dinner or vacation. Today, that structure has been replaced by a total mashup. Technology has made it so that parents and children are connected every second of the day. A child at school can text their parent about a forgotten lunch, and a parent can track a child's every move on a digital map. This constant connection has created a structural pattern of dependency. It prevents children from ever being truly alone with their own thoughts or their own challenges. Furthermore, our legal and social structures have evolved to punish independence. In many places, a parent who lets a child play alone in a park might face judgment or even legal trouble. This creates a collective problem where everyone is afraid to be the first one to let go. We are trapped in a pattern where we all do what we know is probably too much, simply because everyone else is doing it too. We can reframe our perspective by seeing independence not as a lack of supervision, but as the primary way children build resilience. Instead of seeing a child walking to the store alone as a dangerous act, we can reframe it as a hero's journey. It is a moment where a child faces the unknown, overcomes their own fear, and returns with a sense of "I did it myself." This reframing shifts the goal of parenting from protection to empowerment. We can see that anxiety is often the result of feeling incapable of handling the world. Therefore, the best way to reduce anxiety is to provide evidence of competence. Every time a child manages a difficult social situation or navigates a subway alone, they are building an internal shield against future stress. We should reframe our role not as managers, but as providers of opportunity. Our job is to create safe containers where children can take healthy risks. By pulling the worlds of adults and children apart just a little bit, we give our kids the space to breathe and the room to grow into functioning, confident human beings. Applying this to daily life starts with small, intentional acts of stepping back. It can be as simple as sending your child to a different aisle in the grocery store to find a specific item. You can start by letting them walk the dog around the block or allowing them to make their own breakfast. These are the small arenas where independence is born. We can also apply this by encouraging our schools to create spaces for free play. Imagine a playground after school where there are no coaches and no organized games, just boxes, balls, and children of all ages. In these settings, older kids naturally learn to be mentors and younger kids learn to be brave. Another practical application is the homework of doing something new on your own. Parents can give their children the mission to do one task this week that they have never done without an adult. This gives the parent a reason to let go and the child a reason to step up. When we see our children succeed at these tasks, our own anxiety begins to fade. We start to trust their instincts and their abilities. This trust is the original anxiety buster for both the parent and the child. As we reflect deeper on these ideas, we must consider the long-term impact on our society. When we raise children who have never been alone or never solved a conflict on their own, we are sending them into adulthood without the necessary tools for success. Modern statistics show that about 32% of adolescents in the United States have some type of anxiety disorder. This is not just a coincidence. It is a reflection of a culture that has systematically removed independence from the life of a child. By contrast, look at the growth that happens when we step away. When a child has to decide how to spend a long afternoon without a screen or an adult plan, they develop a sense of self. They discover what they like and what they are good at. This is the foundation of mental health. We are currently facing a crisis of confidence in our youth. But the solution is free and available to everyone. It is the simple act of trusting our children more than we trust our fears. We must realize that children are hardwired for curiosity and adventure. They want to be competent. They want to matter. By giving them back the freedom to roam and play, we are honoring their natural drive to become adults. It is a journey that requires us to be brave enough to be less involved, but the reward is a child who stands tall and says with pride that they did it themselves. If you could remember the very first time you felt truly capable as a child because you did something difficult without any help, what is the one small task you could trust your child to handle today to give them that same feeling of strength?